Have the Eagles found their new defensive coordinator? According to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, the Birds interviewed Jim Leonhard yesterday, why the Eagles should sign him, and Philly avoided a big mistake not retaining Jonathan Gannon with head coach type money, why Eagles fans shouldn't be worried and lean into Howie vision. Plus, the question we're all asking, how much is Jalen Hurts about to get paid? Or is it possible he won't get paid at all? But first, let's run it. Josh Davis here on this Tuesday. So much news to get into, and we begin with a big story coming out of Philly yesterday. The Eagles interviewed with former Wisconsin defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard, and Bleeding Green Nation has it by Drew Ham that, check this out, with Jonathan Gannon off to Arizona to be the head coach of the Cardinals, the Philadelphia Eagles are now in the market for a new defensive coordinator. According to a report from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, the most recent interviewee is former Wisconsin Badgers defensive coordinator and interim head coach Jim Leonhard. He goes on to say in the article, Leonhard, who started his career at Wisconsin as a walk-on, played 4 seasons in Madison and became an All-Big Ten and All-American safety 3 times. He was also an excellent punt returner. After going undrafted in 2005, Leonhard still made the Buffalo Bills roster out of training camp and then had a 10-year NFL career with the Ravens, Jets, Broncos, and Browns. After the 2014 season, he retired from the NFL, took 2 years off, and then became the defensive backs coach at his alma mater. After 1 season, he was promoted to the defensive coordinator, where he led one of the best defenses in the country from 2017 to 2022. The article goes on to say that according to his bio on the Wisconsin's website, in Leonhard's 5 seasons as defensive coordinator, UW has ranked among the nation's top 5 in total defense and top 10 in scoring defense 4 times. During that time, the Badgers ranked 3rd in scoring defense, 17.3 points per game, 1st in total yards allowed, 284.8 yards per game, 1st in pass efficiency defense, 110.5, 3rd in rushing defense, 103.4 yards per game, and 1st in opponents' 3rd down conversions at 30.5%. Wisconsin has forced 112 turnovers over that span, tied for 4th most among Power 5 teams. End quote. All right, so this is something Howie and Nick should really consider. I mean, I love Leonhard. Bring into me, he's a perfect fit. He runs a base 3-4. He loves to get after the quarterback in a number of ways and really has been under a number of great masterminds throughout his coaching days and even in his playing career. And if you guys don't recall, Leonhard's name has been circulating the past couple years for defensive coordinator openings. I mean, most recently with the Green Bay Packers, which he turned down the offer. Leonhard loves to scheme for situational football as well. And you may be asking, okay, well, what defensive coordinator doesn't? But I offer Exhibit 1, Jonathan Gannon. Look, I hate to kick him again, but admittedly, I mean, just a couple days ago, he said that he was the reason for the Super Bowl loss. He didn't make changes and wasn't fully prepared. What I like about Leonhard is that he has a base 3-4, like I mentioned. He should really be able to benefit the defense with all the playmakers that we have. He's constantly switching it up with a linebacker, whether it's someone blitzing, bringing a different linebacker, an extra safety into the box, or showing man coverage and then dropping into a cover 3. To me, while both Leonhard and Gannon are 40 years old, Leonhard would be an upgrade. I know, he hasn't actually coached in the NFL, but Leonhard did play 10 seasons as a safety, and I think that experience is invaluable. I mean, the real-world experience that Leonhard has is very enticing, and my vote would be yes. I would give him an offer. There's other very successful defensive coordinators that also used to be players. I mean, let's keep in mind Jack Del Rio, Leslie Frazier, Vance Joseph, and Jim Johnson, to name a few. Yes, that Jim Johnson, one of the GOATs. I'm not saying that Leonhard is a guarantee for 5 NFC title games, but from the articles and scouting reports I've seen, there's definitely some similarities. I think Leonhard has the potential to be the next Jim Johnson. I also mentioned Vance Joseph. That's another name to keep an eye on, as it sounds like the Eagles have interviews lined up with Joseph tomorrow and Thursday. It'll be interesting to see what the Eagles do, and we'll be sure to keep you up to date on all the news and which direction the Eagles decide to take. But what do you guys think? Who should Philly offer for the next defensive coordinator? Really quick here, next story, which you may have already seen, but man, did we ever dodge a bullet. According to Peter King of NBC Sports, former Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon turned down more money to stay with the Eagles. More money than he got with the Arizona Cardinals. Congrats to Gannon. He got his head coaching gig, and thank goodness that we didn't re-sign him. Although obviously it sounds like Philly tried to make him an offer he couldn't refuse. Gannon's appetite to become a head coach ultimately prevailed, but let's not act like it's a surprise. Eagles general manager Howie Roseman said last year that he felt like this season would be a rental approach on Gannon. So there was definitely a thought in Howie's mind throughout the entire year that Gannon's not coming back, which means all these guys that you've seen line up for interviews for the DC job so far have been on Howie's radar for quite some time. And we all know Howie's incredibly strategic and forward-thinking, and I think if we just give it time, the Eagles will land someone. Maybe, hopefully Leonhard, maybe someone else, but someone we'll be really happy with. All right, final story of the day. Jalen Hurts is going to get paid. No question about it, right? Maybe. So this article, according to Bleeding Green Nation, by Brandon Lee Gouton, says, don't be surprised if Jalen Hurts has a new deal before the combine starts. So in it, he writes, he's speaking, he's recorded Howie Roseman, who's talked to reporters here. And so the question is, Howie, I know it's been a while. Jalen's eligible for a contract extension this offseason. How motivated is the organization to secure his future with the team long term? And Roseman says, obviously, we want to keep our best players here for the long term, and he's certainly one of our best players. So that's something we'll keep all the contract talks internal, but we definitely like to keep Jalen Hurts here long term. The next question is, would you like to understand what that looks like before you go forward the rest of the offseason? Roseman responds, I think we have a good sense of what we need to do here. We have a little bit of time here too, to kind of figure out and get away and discuss that. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is keeping our best players here, and Jalen's certainly one of our best players. He goes on to say, Hurts and the Eagles declined to talk about contract extensions following the Super Bowl loss, but don't be surprised if a new deal is done before the combine starts, which is in a week. Prior to the Super Bowl, the Eagles had already approached veterans about redoing deals to make space for Hurts. The article goes on to talk about the importance of this, but anyway, we already know that. With Jalen as successful as he is, as dominant as he is, he's obviously one of the best players. So what's going to happen here? How much dough are we talking about? Again, he's going to get paid a lot, but how much? Are we talking Aaron Rodgers range, $50 million per year? Are we talking a guaranteed contract, the entire contract, like Deshaun Watson? Knowing Howie, I think the latter is less likely. But another clip I saw recently kind of surprised me and got me thinking, what if the sides don't reach a deal? Would Jalen bet on himself? Take a look at this theory by NFL Network insider Mike Garafolo.
Jalen Hurts may have been the MVP if he didn't get hurt late in the season. So if I'm him and I'm his representation, I say I deserve top dollar because the MVP the previous year is the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. That would be Aaron Rodgers at $50 million per year. Now, maybe he decides, I want to come in a little bit less than that, maybe give my team some flexibility, or maybe he decides I'm worth every dollar. I put a lot of the work in to make myself a much better passer in addition to what I'm able to do with my legs, which I bring that aspect that Rodgers doesn't bring. I mean, I can make all kinds of arguments for Jalen Hurts, but the one thing that I would say is this is a guy that doesn't lack confidence. So if the numbers are not to his liking right now, wouldn't shock me if he played it out and said, hey, I'll bet on myself a little bit.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, it's a little hard to imagine Jalen risking an entire season, but Garofalo makes a great number of points, especially about Jalen being supremely confident. At the same time, Howie has been able to navigate some poor contracts and terms in the past. Carson Wentz as the best, most recent example. But I tend to think that both sides are going to reach a deal, but I'm thinking it's going to be around the $48 to $50 million per year. I don't know what exact in terms of years or guaranteed money or anything like that, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Regardless, I think it'll probably be before the combine based on the articles we've seen, but Philly's going to be fine. And if you're worried about the salary cap, don't be. Howie's already made great moves to free up space and put the team's financials in prime position. We'll continue to monitor this closely, as well as all the other hot topics over the next week. But let me know who you guys want. Who is it? I've already mentioned with Jim Leonhard, that would be my vote for defensive coordinator. We've already got Brian Johnson, who's pretty much going to be the for sure offensive coordinator, but I want to see who they bring on to their staffs. We had Brian Dawkins, who weighed in and mentioned that he wants Vance Joseph. He said, quote, I would love it to be Vance. I know that he's aggressive. I know that he's elaborate. I know he blitzes. I know he mixes up things in different situations. So I would love that hire. I could possibly see that. But again, my vote, Jim Leonhard. Let me know who you guys think. Until next time, I'm Josh Davis, and this has been the Philly Special.